What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? My name is Jade, and this is the Here Is What We Know podcast, episode 11, the most provisionally approved show on the internet. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend and collaborator, Simon Anderson. Simon, what's good, bro?
Good afternoon, Jade and Hannah. Lovely to see you again. Yes, it's actually been officially announced now. We have the most emergency approvals out of any podcast on the internet.
Good to see you, Simon. And what's the latest in your world? How are you vibing? You must be loving this weather.
Oh, mate, yeah, it's been good. I had a great day today. Got out surfing, got some waves in, was just watching some of the UFC and had a lovely string of bets going. That was all riding on the final fight, and I needed the guy to win, who sadly lost in a decision.
Oh,
so no bag for Simon this evening.
No takeaways for dinner tonight. I said sandwiches.
And my good friend and lovely assistant Hannah is in the studio. Hannah, how are you?
Fabulous, thanks. Beautiful weather at the moment. It's great to be here with you guys tonight.
You made any bets lately?
No.
I've only just started getting into it, and I'm probably going to stop soon because I had some pretty good beginner's luck, but now it's starting to not be so lucky.
I was gonna say what a white privilege sort of habit to obtain, I must say, Simon.
Well, it's a bit of a proletariat habit to pick up. Instead of investing money smartly in banks, I go for quick payouts on blood sports.
Hey man, if you ever want to talk about crypto, I gotta tell you, I'm killing it out there at the moment. So all is well in the world of crypto right now. But enough about that. We must get to the question of the day. And just to say to the people at home, these podcasts are interactive, unlike many podcasts that you'll see. So if you're in the chat on Twitch, if you're in the chat on DLive, we will actually see those and we will actually respond. So we'd love to hear from you. And if you're listening right now, we'd encourage you to hit !social in the Twitch chat so you can see all of our social media links. Simon, the question of the day, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm super ready.
Hannah, you ready?
Yeah.
Alright, let's do it. Is collective action at the risk of individual safety values-based? Is collective action at the risk of individual safety values-based? Who wants to go first?
I think I need a second to digest.
I'll leave it there for you to absorb.
Yeah, it's a bit of word soup, I must admit, at the moment. Is collective action at the risk of individual safety values-based?
And you'll be pleased to know I did actually check my spelling on this one, Simon, before I put it up.
Didn't turn on your light.
Cool.
I guess the cynical answer for me is yeah, I guess, but whether those values are any good or not is the question. But there is some value. There's probably some value based in collective action. The result of, or the cause of collective action, as you said, at the risk of individual safety, is based on the value of protecting everybody over the individual, protecting the group over the individual rights of a person, right? So they value safety in numbers. They value keeping everybody together over the rights of the individual. So yeah, I say it is based in values, not values I align with. Well, I mean, slightly. I mean, I still think a lot can be achieved from collective action, but then you're talking about at the risk of individual safety.
Yeah. So
and I would actually say no to answer that.
Go on then, say no. Tell us why.
So the reason why I say no is what we're up against right now with collection action being shoved on us and being told that that things have to be one way to keep other people safe, and basically peer pressuring us, disregarding our individual values. So collective action is not values based, it's made on judgment, and it doesn't necessarily consider everybody's own values.
So for me, I'd say that you can only have collective action when it's consented. Okay? So never have I seen a group of people, whatever the movement is, you know, there are a lot of movements out there, some I agree with, some I don't agree with. All of them undertake collective action by consent. So, you know, maybe I'm a bit on the nose with my question on the week of the week this week, but yeah, collective action can only really be collective action when it's done with consent and when the people within the collective are passionate about it. So that's my take.
And that makes a lot of sense to me. I guess what I'm thinking of how things are happening right here at the moment and trying to be forced to have vaccination. So it's not actually really collective action, but it's what some people are being misunderstood, and I've had this conversation with some people. They've not understood that the government, just because they're the government, do not necessarily work in a collective way, and it may not be the best thing to actually listen to the collective voice.
Simon, can you ever remember a time where you've been forced to act for a collective against your will? Can you think of one single time? Because I was going to say school, like school was something you have to do. But the thing about school is if you don't like the one you're at, you can always move. So I even defeated my own argument around school, because that's the one I was going to put up. Can you think of one?
I mean, maybe the only thing that's close is like, I guess playing in the sports team. Like maybe, I mean, this is just personal to me. I can relate to it in terms of doing something like, for the collective will, like, against or at the risk of my own safety. I guess, you know, like maybe it's a point in the game where I feel like it's over. It's not worth fighting for, whatever, and I decide to put in an extra effort to try and win the game. Like that's sacrificing myself, I guess, for the collective action of trying to win the game. That's the only thing I can think of that I've been through in my life that's close at all. But like, there's still some true value in why I would want to do that for myself. You know, I don't know. That's a pretty poor example, but it was the only thing I can think of in my life. That's
exactly that's sort of where I was going with this, and just to say, you know, I think I've said this on a few streams, but I'll say it again. You know, I really feel for people out there, particularly in the health and disability and seniors sector, that might be looking down the barrel of an impending mandate deadline, Simon. So our thoughts and wishes go out to everyone affected by that right at the moment. We definitely appreciate that we forgot a window today, Hannah. We forgot a window. We definitely appreciate that the decision you made is a difficult one. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only reason you should lose your job is if you perform poorly or you decide to move elsewhere. You know, like those are the only really good reasons why you should lose your job, is you're a poor performer or you've got an opportunity elsewhere.
Yep.
You know, or it's not right. Like, yeah, you shouldn't have to lose your job because there's something that you won't do, like
with your own body.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that whole environment a little later on. I want to dig deeper into some of our Prime Minister's comments, and then someone very prominent in the streaming space, Mr. Joe Rogan, had a response on that. But Simon, I'm wondering if you want to go first. I thought we'd start off with something other than COVID would be really nice.
Yeah, I think we can start away from the what do you call, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, just making sure you're all set there. Looks all fine. Just give me 2 seconds. Cool. Coming over to you now.
Alrighty, yeah. So, for those viewers who might not be from New Zealand or not follow international or rugby at all, one of our up-and-coming rugby stars passed away a few weeks ago in a car accident, and there was a massive outpouring of support for his family and his partner and everybody involved, and it's been really tough for lots of people, and he was like, you know, like a real proud Māori rugby athlete. You know, he wasn't just an athlete. He was a Māori athlete, and he was a good example for lots of people in that respect. But this is something that I actually talked about with my father before it was ever a thing. It was still just considered a car crash, but this Herald article says that the coroner is actually investigating a suspected suicide. There's a lot of rumors I've heard about some of the situations of the car crash that kind of lead to potentially being a suicide, like the place where he's crashed and how his cars ended up, and the way that you would need to be driving leading up to that crash to end up in that position, that kind of stuff, leading to a suicide. But there's like a few things. Obviously, with the suicide, normally there's got to be some sort of emotional trigger, and we were saying that he's got a young kid, you know, a young family that he's supporting, and he's a rugby player for New Zealand. His dream is, or his goal is the All Blacks, and he didn't make the All Black squad this year. Didn't make it to go on the end of year trip through Europe, which is happening currently. So you know, and we were saying that if you weren't on the trip to Europe, you're most likely not going to get picked for the World Cup squad next year. I can't remember the year. When was the last World Cup? Never mind. But there's another World Cup in next year or the year after, and yeah, normally when they do these big tours, everybody who's most likely going to end up in that World Cup squad goes on those tours to try and build combinations and chemistry. So you know, the thought goes, this guy's got a young family, trying to you know, support them by making it as an All Black, and it's not quite making it out. So maybe he felt the pressure a little bit, and yeah, there is, I guess, well, when it's a murder, you call it motive, but you know, I'm not sure if it's the same in a suicide, but there's definitely there was definitely some stuff not really going too well for him in his life. So it's real sad, and we may never actually know the true reason or outcome. You know, we're all just kind of speculating unless there's some note that he left behind that we haven't seen that shows his true intentions. We'll never really know, but yeah, I mean, it's a tragic situation, really. I mean, it leaves this young family behind. It's really sad.
Do you mind if
Yeah.
I speculate for a second? Because I've had my sister in my ear about this story, and I want to say, for the people at home that are listening to this, I really have no background. I don't have any connection to Sean Wainui or his partner. I even forget her name. Paige? Paige.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my sister keeps saying that he was found out for cheating. So it wasn't necessarily the career stuff, and he felt like he was a little bit boxed in with the reality because he knew the person that he was cheating with was pregnant, was going to keep the baby, and it was going to turn into this whole thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is a primetime scandal right there. I mean, that's crazy if that's true.
I've got no references, but I just want to put it out there that it's something my sister and I had been talking about. But then that takes my mind to, hello, every NBA player ever has done that. Like it's not, like, it sounds terrible, but I mean this in a manner hunting way. Mistakes like that shouldn't be a deal breaker for your entire life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, there's always the opportunity for redemption.
Yeah.
As long as you can breathe in and out.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's tough when temporary problems end up causing permanent solutions.
Yeah.
Can I ask Simon, sorry, how old was he about?
I think he was a year, maybe two younger than me, because I never played against him at high school level. But he played for Takapuna Grammar.
No kidding! Did you know I went there? Just thought I'd say that.
Yeah. No, I think he was either a year or two, so he would be 25, 24 maybe.
And the reason why I'm saying that, I don't have the huge connection to rugby, but one, from what you're saying about a career, to then Jade mentioning about maybe this lover and this baby, I think you're completely right. There's always a chance for redemption. Okay, he's only 25. What if this baby was born and his current child would then have a half sibling? And there's always a chance for redemption. And okay, you didn't get into the All Blacks. Well, what next for the rest of your career?
There's plenty of money to be made other places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of different industries for a young strapping dude. Like, you could, I don't know, man. It's really terrible. And so you reckon it was career based? He just missed the mark on a couple of occasions.
I just had absolutely no idea about the familial stuff. Like he's a bit of a social media star, and you see his family quite a lot. So it'd be great. It was quite crazy to think that he'd be doing anything to destroy that. So that's probably likely. I mean, athletes, high-paid professional athletes, aren't the greatest at being monogamous.
But like, help me with the rugby stuff. So, what like you do a bit of analysis on your other podcast for other things. So I'm really keen to know, like, how far off the mark was this guy? If you were a selector for the New Zealand All Blacks, what would you be saying? How far away was he?
Not far at all. Like, like either like one injury away, or you know, like a couple of good performances. There's just so much competition for where he plays as a midfield, and well, he's a weird player because he starts in the midfield, but has also got a lot of experience on the wing, and that's not really a common combination, and makes you like a little bit vulnerable if you were to put him on your bench. You know, it's not a good coverage. So he's the type of player that is fighting to be like the starting midfielder, and that's trying to get in front of some top quality All Blacks. Like, I'm not sure if you know any of them, but yeah.
Name some off, and I'll probably recognise who's he up against.
Like Anton Leonard-Brown or Rico Ioane, Jack Goodhue, who else is up there? Oh, Richie Mo'unga. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. So there's some really good people there, and I mean, he would be solidly playing in the Māori All Blacks every year for the next 5 years at least, maybe. And he's that sort of quality, but making it into the All Blacks, I mean, he's probably just one or two positions out of being in the squad. So close, just not close enough. That must be pretty tough.
Dreadful shame, and we want to say that we realise that suicide can be a triggering subject for a lot of people. So, following this podcast, we will leave links down below to services that you can access in New Zealand around mental health and suicide. So thanks very much for fielding that one for us today, Simon.
No worries. Yeah, I think it was worthwhile talking about. Yeah, I mean, it's tough talking about a man once he's passed on. So I just want to wish nothing but the best to the family and to him as well. Hope he rests easy.
Yep. So it seems like Joe Rogan has had a bit to say about our Prime Minister. Almost suggesting that she's a wee bit of a bully.
She's an easy target at the moment.
So I thought it'd be fun. I've prepared a couple of clips for our fans overseas that may not get our same media. I want to play a clip that will demonstrate exactly where Joe's comments come from. Our Prime Minister was doing a stand-up in Northland, which covers a number of different areas, doesn't it, Simon? We say Northland is like a blanket, but there's several up there, and what she was trying to do is really drum up support for vaccination. I understand that Northland right at the moment has some of the lowest vaccination rates compared to across the country. So I'm going to shut up now. We're going to have a look at that clip, and then we'll come back.
This is about making sure that people are able to be out, get the information they need, and if they have questions, that they feel safe to come and ask them and have them answered by a professional. And that's all I keep encouraging. It's what I keep encouraging people. Forgive me, sir.
Can you name the woman who died from the COVID vaccine?
Sir, I'll direct questions across those who are attributed here to be able to answer questions. If you may, yeah, go ahead.
More cases popping up in Northland, and it's taking Ministry of Health up to 48 hours to report, to list some of them. Well, people who have tested positive are actually saying where those cases are. Is this good enough, or is it a sign of a symptom under a system under immense?
No, it's not. It's simply the fact that in some cases we'll have individuals who don't have a large number, or even many at all, locations of interest. That's often because if it's a work site, for instance, then we'll go straight in and test those work site colleagues without necessarily having to advertise that more broadly. So in this case, the individual has had their workmates tested, they've come back negative, and as other locations of interest are identified, they're uploaded. But so far, there haven't been many.
What's the lesson from the High Court decision regarding the Ministry of Health and whānau?
Yeah, so look, that decision's just come through. And what I'd say is that we're all actually completely on the same page when it comes to driving vaccinations and making sure that we're doing everything that we can to reach people that we need to. This is an issue of... This is an issue...
Not working in Israel.
Sir, I'm going to answer the questions of the accredited media. Sir, I will shut down the press conference if you do not cease. Sorry, to our accredited members of the gallery here, we might move to an inside venue. Unfortunately, we've got someone who's disrupting your press conference today, so we might reconvene. Thank you. Can we use the facility here? Sure we can. Do you know whether or not it's open? Sorry everyone, we might just try and flop it, go inside and then hold it there just so that we can have it in a bit more quiet space for you. And if you want to listen to your order and you...
So, particularly for you, Simon, that's probably a longer version than you've seen, and I was really deliberate in seeking out some of the raw stream. So just before we play the response from Joe, I probably want to draw the attention to the team here and the people at home to a couple of things. So there was a woman screaming in the background. She was obviously a Northland resident. She was really against the Prime Minister coming there at all, because you know, tensions are high for Māori in Northland in terms of that, apparently. And also, like, it goes without saying, there was a gentleman from an independent American media organization who made reference to a 39% efficacy rate in the vaccination rollout in Israel. He also started to speak to some of the awful numbers in the UK. Apparently 70% of all vaccinated people are dying. Of the people that are dying, 70% of them are vaccinated. So he began to say something along those lines, but he didn't get to finish. The third thing I want to highlight is that our Prime Minister is not used to speaking to media she hasn't pre-vetted, apparently.
Yeah, something I've heard a few times is that she pre-approves questions, that like all of these presses and stuff like that, you know, all of the questions that are coming, the media are already feeding them to her, so she knows what's coming.
So there's that, and that was pretty mind-blowing to watch, because I view our Prime Minister as trying to be, you know, a Prime Minister of the people.
So one thing I'd say from that, because I hadn't seen it, I've watched a few international streamers, and they're very clear that they are accredited media. You don't need a stamp or a symbol to be accredited. You should be sharing the people's voice should be heard, and especially finding out the Prime Minister was shutting down that. Where's the hope for growth and development?
So a couple of things. I get really obsessed with the words that people use at times. I come from an industry that is just hell-bent on getting every word of every document right. So it's kind of been something that's been forced on me over the years. But accredited, right? So I did some research on what it means to be accredited. So there are two things you need to do in New Zealand to be accredited.
I guess.
Yeah.
One is you've got to be one of those organizations taking money from the government from the journalism program, and two, you have to be only saying positive stories about COVID and the government. Am I right?
I'll accept that list, but that wasn't what I was going to say. I will accept that list, but there are two things you must do. So there is kind of a notification to your local council that you're going to be exploring and asking people questions. So there is a document you can get from your local council to say that you're media, and basically it doesn't mean anything. You don't have to qualify it. You can get a bit of paper that says you're going to be out in the public asking people questions. You get that from the council. What I think has happened here with the Prime Minister is accredited is meaning vetted by her office. So literally she's trying to dismiss this guy for not being accredited media, but all that means is it's not a qualification. It's merely, I didn't invite you here, is what she's saying. My office didn't send you an email saying come along.
And to me, you know what that makes me feel? What is the point in the press release? You're trying to promote an
stand-up, you mean?
What is the point in the stand-up?
Yeah.
What is the point in having press come to Northland to try and promote the vaccine if it's not just genuine people in the community actually wanting to learn and grow from it? Just before your next clip, I was just gonna also let you know about one thing.
I wasn't done with my monologue, but go ahead.
One thing I was just gonna say is, through my reading also, I had learnt that Northland and another place, Tarawhiti, have some of the lowest vaccination rates. Now, it's not just because of the views of individuals, it's also because their access to vaccines has been a huge thing. So
they had to privately fund.
Yeah.
I remember reading. Yeah.
So they've had to there's been arranged kind of a vaccination bus that's now going from these little towns, and so it's not just about people's choice and control, it's actually the access to it. So the way the Prime Minister is selling it, she's saying, well, everyone is just being a terrible nuisance, and why haven't they got it yet?
Before we head off to Joe's response, I'd be interested in your views around this, Simon. I always understood that the media was supposed to be challenging. I remember the good old days when the media yelled at you exactly like that. Ask Uncle Winston about the media.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you in movies and stuff like that, every time there's a scene where there's a politician in press, it's just like this wave of people with microphones screaming at them saying, what do you think about puppies and nuclear warfare?
Answer our fucking question.
Yeah, now they just sit around nicely and go, oh, Jacinda, please pick me. I have a question that you liked. I can ask you it. You liked it, remember?
And I don't know, this is not news or entertainment. This is just Jade saying stuff, but I think she has a real demeaning kind of way, like a real teacher vibe about her. Like, she's telling you the truth and you don't know anything, and that makes me really uncomfortable. Do you have an opinion about that, Simon? Have you observed that?
Yeah, a cynical black pill approach to that would be that is on purpose so that it gives everyday folk the social proof to hound their friends and to the people in their lives that haven't got the vaccine yet, because her behavior makes it okay for them to discount those people as written off and never joining the group kind of thing, which is dangerous. Then once you consider, there's a whole bunch of science and psychology around, once you consider somebody outside a group there's a lot of morals and values that you discard for that person.
Our Prime Minister likes being in the media. She's been in the on the Late Show a couple of times, and when the host came to New Zealand, she picked him up, and it was this whole media thing,
tourism thing, yeah.
Yeah, and it was really great for her numbers and stuff like that, and it made me kind of ill because I'd never quite seen the entertainment world overlap like that with New Zealand politicians. You see it all the time in America. Michelle Obama and President Obama have gone on the Ellen Show a couple of times, so it's not uncommon for them.
John Key went on
Late Show. He actually did. Fair enough too, but it's not so common for our culture. We don't really connect with that. We don't really look for our politicians to be on entertainment television.
We don't elect movie stars like America does.
No, not like old Arnie over there. But
Ronald Reagan.
Oh, true.
He was an actor.
I actually forgot that. Thank you, Simon.
That's very important to world history. The fact that he was an actor.
So I just want to play Joe Rogan's clip because, as usual, big fan of Joe. Totally on the money with his comments, I think. And he had this to say about our Prime Minister.
She's running New Zealand. If she even gets asked questions at press conferences and people yell out questions, he goes, "We're going to shut this down. We're going to shut this down if you keep yelling out." And then she just leaves.
She's goes, like a Lady Trump.
Accredited press only. And so she leaves. Like she took the fucking press conference indoors because they were yelling out about the vaccine program that they have in Israel, how it's not working, and about the vaccinated people account for a vast percentage of the people that are testing positive and even deaths. And so this guy's yelling that out. But what about this? You're yelling out about this vaccine program. You want everybody to be vaccinated. Tell us what you know about how it's failing in Israel. And she goes, "We're going to just shut this down if you keep," with a big smile on her face. Like they have ultimate power now.
Yikes.
They have the power to shut down businesses, keep people in their homes. It's not as simple as just protecting people. It's also they have power. So when they have power, they fucking like it, man. That's the reason why they run. Those are the kind of people that run for governor and mayor in the first place. They enjoy telling people what to do.
They're dorks.
They like being the king.
They want to be bullies.
I like being the queen.
Yeah.
Remember when not knowing anything about politics was normal?
So, absolute. What do you call that? A takedown, an own of our Prime Minister, completely just making a mockery of what she thought was a situation under her control to the international media, and you can call Joe Rogan media. He's made a name for himself. She's an absolute mockery of governance.
He's almost mainstream media if you went on pure like numbers and viewership,
Yep.
So yeah, there's a lot of people that follow what he says and agree with him. There's a lot of people that think that people in disagreement are like this little minority. I think there's some people who will be slightly shocked when they see in the next few weeks to a month just how many people are actually not on board with what's going on.
And I think I'd be interested to take some time and get those Israel numbers. I don't have them for the show today, but I definitely want to get some references and look at that. But I don't think any question from anyone should be shunned. However, do I know what it's like to be a Prime Minister and be in a media scrum like that? You would naturally need some kind of order, but I'm uncomfortable with the idea that the Prime Minister gets to preview questions before they're asked.
And preview who gets to ask them.
And what I'd say to that too is, like, we go to a fair few conferences, you could say, or engagements, and they will typically have, you know, well-known questions ahead of time. So where was it clearly identified that she could have actually been taking questions from people that she hadn't actually have previewed the questions, something like that.
Yeah.
And what I was also thinking, listening to Joe, you know, Jacinda, our Prime Minister, built up a bit of a name for herself and was, you know, lit up on buildings as being this queen and goddess for the way that she dealt with a tragedy in our country.
Oh, yeah.
And
so
then,
Hannah's making reference to Christchurch and the photo with the burqa, the hug. You remember that,
Yeah.
Simon?
Yeah. No, I knew what she was talking about. Yeah, I got that. Yeah.
she was, you know, the multi-countries were actually learning about us and learning about Jacinda in a really positive light. And look, now, I'm not dismissing Joe's comments at all, and I say good on him, but does she actually recognise her actions and the way that she conducts herself? No.
So I don't have a clip for this, and right at this point in time, I would be ad-libbing in terms of my recall of the quote, but our Deputy Prime Minister Grant Robinson was asked to make comments on Joe's comment, to give a reaction.
He called him far right.
Yep. So you went right to where I was going to go, and
Yeah.
Joe is probably the least far right person that I know. He's very liberal, but also likes to have like facts about things. He's not immune to facts.
No. And he's all for collective action in a grassroots sense. You know, he's not a true conservative person.
No.
He's a lot of what he says.
No.
And the way he acts is very left of center. You know, like he's got very liberal drug policy positions, and
hey man, he smokes weed on the show. You know, you can't get more left than that, really.
No, exactly. Yeah. But he's only far right in description by people who claim to be on the far left.
Yep, so the Deputy Prime Minister, I think the quote goes somewhere along the lines of, we're not too worried about a far-right podcast and their views about New Zealand policy. We are interested in getting the vaccine to New Zealanders. That's what we focus on. I think the quote was somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, I think he did it justice.
Yeah, so couldn't get a clip for that, but really interesting that they went immediately to the labeling of far right, and they also called the gentleman that was calling out far right as well. Now, do I condone calling out as a way to get answers? Not necessarily, but I think his energy came from the Māori woman behind him that was obviously very emotional, very upset, and she actually, at one point during the stand-up, broke out in waiata. So
I didn't know that.
She was connecting with some sort of spirit or hauora. Yeah, definitely. She was really connected, really in there. And this is my opinion. She seemed like a really young mum. Like this wasn't fire that we used to seeing by any means. This was a young woman.
Good on her. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's true Māori styles.
Yeah, no,
scare them off with the waiata.
Yeah, no, I take my hat off, and you know, I say again for probably the 1,000th time, my position is the right to choose and the right to explore. other options. And on that note, I'm really excited for a potential guest. We're not going to say now, Simon, but interesting emails over the week, and we should have someone really, really interesting to talk to. I'm going to be smiling ear to ear when she's on the show. Yeah.
If all goes well, we should have somebody incredibly based to join us, and it should be a fun time. Just with like the way that press situation was handled, the best thing for her to say would be, "Sir, please wait your turn." You know, like if she wanted to take his question, then just say, "Sir, wait your turn," and then if he continues to be disruptive, then all is fair. But it was the fact that because his question was delivered in that sense, right? Because it can't be the content of the question that meant she didn't want to answer it, right? She would never admit to the content of that question being the reason that she didn't want to answer it. So it had to have been the delivery. So if it was the delivery, then all she would have said is, "Please, sir, wait your turn and I'll get to your question." The fact that she, didn't do that makes me think that maybe it was the content of the question that was the reason for her shutting him down like that.
And
Sorry, Hannah.
To add to that, though, Simon, what I was going to say is I have heard her on her stand-ups.
Shutting him down like that.
In the Beehive. To add to that, though, Simon, what I was going to say.
Sorry, my bad.
In the Beehive, that she will literally say, "Sorry, Sarah, I'll just come to you next. I'll just go to this person and then I'll go to your question." So she does do that. It's not foreign for her to actually identify somebody and say, "I'll come to you next."
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit out of character almost.
Accredited press only. I've never seen that. It should.
I've never heard it. It's bollocks. No. It means nothing. It's pointless.
It literally means nothing. And like you said, Simon, if she said, "Hey mate, we're doing this in an orderly way. Hold on a second. I'll come to you." That would have been a totally acceptable answer.
Yeah.
Awesome. I believe we have one more story before we get to the top of the hour. And Hannah, this is your one. Right?
Interesting. Yes. Interested to see what Hannah's brought to the table.
Me too. I actually had a preview, so it's a little bit juicy for all the wrong reasons.
Oh.
It's really annoying, actually. So, Hannah, over to you.
So the reason why I'm bringing you this story today is I want it to be something other than coronavirus. So, the interesting thing is, I don't have facts on this right now, but, same day, there was also another story that came out saying that we're at the highest unemployment rate ever so far in New Zealand. And then right now, the government has identified that they have their budget to create a brand new hat is $600K for baseball caps.
And this is just the prototype version.
This is just the prototype version. There's all these people who are struggling out there.
That's not the cost to fit out every police officer with the baseball cap.
Yeah, it is.
You're telling me.
And
obviously, it is a prototype.
They're rolling it out as a first iteration. Was their comments in the story?
Oh,
yeah.
So there could be another run, which would be another budget allocation of similar amount.
I'm thinking, right, the government's scratching their heads and saying, how do we pay for these people who are unemployed? And we know that there will be a fair few people that will that may lose their jobs because of the mandates. Now, I think baseball caps for the police, when they already have hats,
They actually do already have hats.
They do
multiple hats.
Am I just a black guy over here really confused about this, or like?
It literally says in the article that they already have hats, and they would not disclose the current budget that they have for their allocation. So.
No. The story said initially they weren't prepared to release the stuff, what the budget allocation was. But after a complaint to the ombudsman, we know people in the ombudsman, Simon. After a complaint to the ombudsman, they had to, because it was for the public interest, and it turned out to be 600.
Yeah. So.
Weren't they desperately clawing out for more funding to get? Because they were saying they desperately needed more police officers on the force.
Oh mate,
yeah.
I'm sure that.
They got that through the COVID response fund, out of those billions of dollars. They got it.
And they're spending it on hats.
Yeah.
COVID's just been the perfect cover for every part of every government to just run up inflation, or loan lots of money for, all of this. We keep everybody at home, we shut everybody down, and we just print money.
Yeah.
So Hannah, what's your take? Is this a good use of money? Is this an expected use of money? What is this?
Poor use of money. Funding to the police that, those who actually take care of our citizens and do the positive thing. Not actually, I don't care what they wear, really. It's basic. What they have now is good. And we've got a whole lot of people who are unemployed right now. How about putting that 600k into actually making sure we can support people to not just their benefits, but actually how we can support them to more organisations to be getting back into work and employing more people, and not them just failing.
Such a random story, and I'm just waiting for the comments on YouTube to say, "Hey Jade, slow news day or something. You got to pick on the police."
Oh, so that is another thing I was going to say. Is the reason why I actually chose this story was because I'm not an expert in rugby, and I felt that it is actually very hard to find something that is not coronavirus based. Now, it's very much all across like our main top 4 media sites. You pick the coronavirus, and for me, who's visually impaired, I try and do things the easiest way and make sure I look on the main page.
And it's just all corona.
All coronavirus. So it's like, wow, where's the diversity in media? Why do I have to be stuck in one mode? It's like.
So are you defending our slow news day, or?
I'm saying not just the slow news day, I'm just saying in general. It's like I saw another story that I was going to talk about. I thought, wow, this looks cool. And then I realised what it really was about. It was about announcing psychologists have been explaining why people do and what it means that people bake during lockdowns of COVID.
Okay, well, while you're on this random tangent, you may as well stay there then. Why do they bake?
It's basically to distract them from their current environment and what is their restrictions, and maybe their possibilities to think back to what could be possible.
Very interesting. So a way of going back to.
And I felt that story was almost a bit too far-fetched. It's like you're trying to create a story out of something, yes, they're probably doing that, but you're trying to create a story to make it alright.
Fishing.
Fishing and explaining. Yeah.
I tell you what, like, if have you heard about what happened at the Travis Scott concert today, Jade?
Yes.
It's been on top of the news.
That is something we could have covered as well. I was going to ask you about that, but yes, I do know what happened. So, a couple of reports say someone died. Do we know if that was actually the case?
Yeah, death total's up to 11 so far.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, unconfirmed reports saying the death toll was much larger. Like there was a post from the girl who actually climbed up onto the cameraman's post tower and was screaming at him, saying that there's dead people on the ground. But she wrote out a massive post, and she was saying there was just layers. She saw there was layers of people, and because everybody was so tight, and as soon as the music starts going loud, everybody condenses up towards the front, and then it basically like elastic bands, and everybody goes pushing back, and then the same thing happens again. And so basically you can't just kind of keep your feet in the same spot. The whole crowd moves in this one big ocean of people as they all jump around, and you're sealed into the people all around you.
Wow.
And all it takes is for you to stumble, or for a direction, push to come from a different direction. As soon as you hit the deck, people fall on top of you, and then there's no way you're ever going to get back up, and you just get trampled. And that's what happened. It's just, the person described it as sinkholes, which is pretty correct, because as soon as one person goes down, they just pull each other in. And
amazing.
It's pretty horrific event.
Maybe we can cover that a bit more fully next week. We'll get some clips together, Simon, and do that.
There's some there's some rough clips of like kids doing CPR in the crowd, like multiple groups of people doing CPR all at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah. And we'll see, because there's some people say that the death toll's got to be way higher, so we'll see in a week's time how the story develops. But yeah, you just wouldn't think that kind of stuff happens at this day and age. People should be able to run concerts better, but there was talks of massive amounts of people getting it illegally, so maybe there was far too many people there than there was supposed to be, and that can change an event pretty quickly.
Who do you think should be held responsible?
The event organizers.
The event organizers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, it depends on the investigation, right? There's got to be a failure point. If the fact is that there wasn't enough security there because of and the lack of security contributed to being too many people in unsafe crowd environments, well then that's whoever's job it was to book the right number of security guards, then you follow the chain of command up from there.
I would completely agree with you too, Simon, because not only is it how you described about concerts, it's the whole thing about how are the concert organisers organising it to be a COVID-friendly environment outside.
Well, that was actually going to be my question. Like, so much for COVID.
Yeah.
11 deaths by trample and cardiac arrest, and zero COVID deaths.
That sounds like didn't have 2 meter spacing, or didn't have that environment to actually
No, and there's this weird subtitle, like part of sub story, where like some random security guard said he felt getting pricked in the neck, and then he dropped unconscious, and then he had to get revived by a medic giving him naloxone, which is like the drug you get to someone when they OD on like heroin, and then the medic said he claimed to see like a needle hole in the guy's neck. So some random security guard got dropped apparently, and so there's like these rumors of somebody going around injecting people. It's weird, man. Crazy stuff.
Suffice to say, I don't go to too many concerts, and if I do, I'm in the either accessible area or I try to get in the VIP one. For those very reasons, I'd get trampled pretty easily, I think. But we are at the top of the hour, so it's a good place to come to final thoughts. Simon, of the stories today, which one were you drawn to the most, should I say?
I mean, I'm a sucker for some poor public spending, you know, like that one will always draw me in. Cops making poor the budget decisions, the whole spend it, use it or you lose it type deal. That always attract me. But I am actually happy that the situation in New Zealand is getting more international coverage because, you know, growing up our whole lives, every time we've watched the news, you've seen places like Gaza and Israel and Palestine and Iraq and Afghanistan, and you see these, and you see these places, and you're like, and you see these families going, "Help us, save us from this dictator, save us from this military, this Taliban, whatever." Like, and you see them, and then you see our news covering these other countries that are in strife, and you know, right here in New Zealand, we're living pretty cozy, but it's good to see other countries. I'm just using it as an example. It's good to see other countries taking notice of things that are happening in New Zealand that aren't, you know, ideal, and helping bring awareness to that and showing the people of New Zealand that there is alternative viewpoints. There is a scary amount of homogeneity and willingness to follow the state's direction in this country.
The converse of that, of course, is the fact that we have this kind of media means that things are getting a little bit worse for New Zealand. So the international community is taking notice. I mean, what my takeaway from this show today, which is a kind of a random thought, but the importance of independent media. Like, I have a lot of respect for Joe Rogan. He's got an amazing format. I actually aspire for this podcast to one day be something like that.
One day.
If you look at his earliest, like, 3 or 4 podcasts, they were literally in a room like this with him talking to a computer. So
Totally.
You got to start somewhere, and hats off to Joe Rogan. Hats off to the gentleman who was trying to ask those questions, and probably for the next show, which might align really well for our guest if that becomes a thing, I might find out who the reporter is and just get a sense of where he's actually from, so we can do a little bit of a deep dive in terms of that. But before we go, Hannah, any final thoughts?
I definitely have to agree with both of you. It's great to see you know, New Zealand in such a wider view in the media, and actually hear that. But it's also one thing I was also thinking as you were saying it, Simon. It's like, I remember growing up, and so many times, if ever New Zealand was mentioned, we were called Australia, and we weren't actually recognised as New Zealand. There was this big confusion between the two. So I think it's getting better, but yes, we need to be, New Zealand and the government need to be accepting independent media and independent comments and voices, because the voices of the people should be making up how we move forward. And actually, as Joe said, being a bully, she was being a bit of a bully. Being a bully...
He didn't say that, I said that.
Oh.
That was the upshot
Well,
of what
Ari
he said.
Shafir said that. And
Oh,
so,
did
I
he?
think both, I think they both, Joe and Ari, said
Yeah.
Oh, great.
they was actually
Cover
bully,
that
yeah.
off then.
Yeah. So being a bully isn't gonna try and get those last few people to get vaccinated who still want to, who are dragging your feet, but it's also accept that there are people that don't want to genuinely get the vaccine. like
you.
me.
Thank you, Hannah. So we're out of time here, folks. Thank you so much for being along, whether you've watched the live stream or you're watching later on Odyssey or YouTube. We very much appreciate your time and attention. If you want to figure out how to support the show, there are a couple of ways. If you're watching on Twitch, you can hit !social in the chat even now if we're offline, and it'll provide you with our social links, or they will all be provided down in the description below. Anyway, that's enough talking for me. From me, thank you for being a part of the channel. Thank you for being a part of the journey. And Simon?
Please stay awesome.
And we'll see you in the next one.